everybody. Welcome to Reading Your Way to Heaven. This is Jason. And as always with me, Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, how are you doing?
Jason, I'm a little bit older than I was last time we talked.
That you are. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. It's only been a few days, but it feels like a year. Wait, no. It's been a year, but it only feels like a few days? Whatever.
Nailed it.
What's up, man? Thanks for the belated birthday.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going well. This chapter, it felt, speaking of feeling like years, this chapter was long, man.
Yeah, this book is a page turner though. Like I haven't felt like I've had to slog my way through it yet. I don't know if you have.
This chapter, it felt...
It's heavy. It's getting kind of heavy.
Well, I mean, it is like, it was a lot. I don't feel like we moved very much.
No,
we didn't really. Not only physically, like location, obviously, no,
right.
But even character wise,
well,
we moved very incrementally.
The last few chapters just zoomed. Over the years,
right?
So fast.
I get that.
Not that for sure. I think we got a little bit of a development or a peak or a better view of Frau Shield. I think the development of some of the, some of the relationships that she's having with the people in Nuremberg is revealing. I was going to say Ragnfrid, more like Ragn-freezing. With this chapter. I don't know, man. This was not a feel-good chapter, but I still enjoyed it. I still felt like drawn into the lives of these characters, which I think the author's done a really great job of just having me buy in.
So I guess to give the 30,000 foot view in maybe 2 sentences or less. I'll give you 3 sentences. How would you give the brief synopsis of this chapter?
Ulfhild still hurt. Frua Shield, not as bad as we thought. Ragnfrid in deep pain. I don't know why I said it like a haiku.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I didn't limit you on the number of words you could use in the sentence, Gabe.
I could have used all kinds of,
conjunctions.
Okay.
And
participles and oh man.
Therefore.
Goodness gracious. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts, those 3 things. The reality of Ulfhild still struggling with her, the effects of that incident. And then we do get that deeper look into not the life of Frua Shield, but just her as a person. Not just in the relationships with those around her, but we get to see how she responds to different situations. And a lot of times kind of with grace, and then yes, just the pain, the mourning that Ragnfrid is experiencing. I mean, it's just, I can't even imagine. It just the heavy heart that she's carrying, and the effect that has on her and her family, and not just her immediate, but her extended family.
I think the other reason,
it's kind of if I had to pick 3 topics, themes, 30,000 foot view, that's probably what I'd go with.
I think the other thing that I was missing is there's no dialogue or thought of Lavran in this chapter. He's mentioned a very small number of times, and then near the end, he springs into action to try and separate some priests. But other than that, like, he is not in this chapter at all. This is definitely this is the Fru Ashield chapter.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and to be fair, he is still recovering and
Right.
probably, I would say closer to being at full strength than not. But yeah, he's still been somewhat laid out. I mean, from a punctured lung, goodness gracious, and some broken ribs and whatever else he was dealing with. But yeah, no, this was Fru Shield's time to shine for sure.
Do we think Uvild will ever walk again?
Ooh, Wield. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, she's really having a hard time, and it's not for lack of attempts.
Yeah,
but
even when she doesn't want to.
I honestly, so we're months beyond the incident of the ox. Of course, now we're talking about chapter 4 of Kristin Lavransdatter, the wreath. So we're months beyond that incident with the ox, but progress is slow and painstaking, and I just don't know. I don't think so. That would be my guess, but she's still alive, and honestly, the way we ended last chapter, I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought there'd be a big chance that over the course of the next few months, she wouldn't make it.
Now, the other question is, how much did you enjoy reading the word Fru Ashield over and over and over again? Because I was reading this out loud to my wife.
If you played a drinking game where every time you said her name, you had to take a sip of something.
Do you think
I think you would end up like Lavrans by the end of this chapter. That's an inside joke. You have to read the chapter to know.
Hey,
catch that reference.
So
I mean, it's not that inside.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Lavrans drank a bunch. Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
So the word "fru," though, I feel like that's a title of some sort. Kind of like how instead of saying Father Eric, it's like Syrah or
Syrah, yeah.
Syrah. So I'm wondering if I don't know what that title means. I don't remember ever saying anything. I mean, other than like she was witchcraft or whatever.
Ms., something to that effect.
Maybe.
Lady.
I mean, it's just because we don't say like with Kristin or German, Ragenfried.
Right? So yeah, you're right. It's not German. It's Norwegian.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard not to think of Frau, right? And what does that mean? Isn't that kind of like Mrs. or lady or like a more formal expression?
Maybe. I don't know. So the other thing that tickled me in this chapter was how last week we celebrated the Nativity of Our Lady, and the gospel reading for that day is the genealogy of Jesus. And you get through all those names. And it was funny because I went to Mass that day, and our bishop was celebrating the Mass. And he talked to me, he kind of made a lighthearted joke about how, when I was in seminary, our priest, our Monsignor that was teaching us just said, if you're not sure about a name, just say it with confidence, because 99% of the people that are listening won't know if you're saying it right. And so I just took that to heart when I was reading these names in this chapter to my wife. I was like, I am going to butcher each one, but she don't know. Even then I was like, how do I pronounce this? And she even, oh gosh, which one was it? Where is it? I'm trying to find it in real time here. I don't know. It was the one with like a bunch of K's and and everything else. And here it is.
K's and J's.
Here it is. Inga of Finsbricken.
Oh yeah.
And
that's Arnie's parents.
Yeah. And so just trying to like rattle off all the family here. started spelling it. She's like, good luck.
Yeah.
So how
I
much did
loved
you have fun trying to read
that.
that?
No, it was Gerd and Inga of
Gert.
Finnsbrecken. Yeah. No, I have that's one of my favorite things is coming across these names. It's just fun,
Now,
you know.
remind me, who are these people? Like, what was their family? Or who are they tied to again?
Gerd and Inga,
Yes.
is that who you're talking about? So
Yeah.
they are Arnie's parents. So Arnie's the boy that helps Lavrans,
That's right.
and he's a little bit older than Kristin. Um, and then a little bit later on, when Kristin is with, or I suppose before this, when Kristin is through a shield to pick the herbs, he's kind of accompanying them, taking care of their horses while they're out looking for the herbs and stuff. So that boy, that's Arnie.
So, Gabe,
So Jason,
we read Dante, and we read Dante's Inferno before
Sure
this
did.
book. So, if you haven't listened to that, listeners, go check it out. But when we got to the seven,
Hell.
when we got to Satan,
Yes.
I don't remember hearing about priests and monks coming out of his butt.
Oh man, that's okay because priests and monks were being shoved into different holes along the way.
This is true. What did you think of that part of this chapter with the story of St. Thomas of Canterbury?
So I am very unaware of that story.
I didn't know it at all, but I love it.
No, it's great.
I hate it because it's priests and monks. But.
Well, sure, of course, yeah. Also, it was awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, the story goes that St. Thomas was led or given a vision of hell, led to the gates to see those inside. He didn't see. He was surprised not to see people who had opposed him, those who were within the church who had tried to oppose his work, and he was just about to praise God for his mercy because, like, he doesn't want people to be in hell. He knows that it's going to happen, but he doesn't want that to be the case. So to not see them, he was like, oh, thank goodness. Thank you, God, for your mercy. And just as that's about to happen, the angel commands or asks Satan to lift his tail. And as Satan lifts his tail, out come all these clerics who have betrayed the church for their own self-interests. And so, I mean, like, honestly, like in Dante, in that ring, who does Satan have in his three heads but betrayers, with Judas and, who is it? Judas? Is it Brutus?
Yes.
I can't think of the third.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's going to drive me nuts.
I'll look it up. Now,
Good deal.
Switching gears. Frua Shield. While I'm looking that up, let me ask you this question. Do you trust her? Like, have you had a change of heart like Lavran and like everyone else in the town now?
I
do
am
you still,
starting to.
or
Well,
do you have your reservation?
No, okay. I am pleasantly surprised with the way that she carries herself and with the way that she handles tense situations, because there is some grace there. Like throughout this chapter, there were two incidents where she was kind of challenged, or people were saying negative things about her, or she could have easily flown off the handle, but kind of keeping her composure, keeping her cool, actually, being charitable to the people who were not being charitable to her, I think revealed a lot about her character. That being said, when Ragnfried is asking Kristin about the prayers that Frua Shield is teaching Kristin, like, are any of them blasphemous or heretical? And Kristin's like, I don't think so. And like, okay, good, wow, that's amazing. But then she ends with, but I'm not supposed to tell anybody about them, or else they won't be as effective. Yeah, that's a red flag. That's a little bit of maybe even a large one, a large red flag. The secrecy there, and then also the fact that like when they're gathering the dew for Oodlefield's drink,
Yep.
it's Kristin that's gathering it because it's more effective if it's coming from an innocent maiden.
Yeah.
And again, like okay, that is witchcraft, that is magic, that is like that's nothing about the spiritual life. It's not. It's one thing to say she's a witch because she does understand that certain herbs have medicinal value,
Right.
and people are like, oh, that's witchcraft, but actually she's learned that there are homeopathic remedies, and that's not witchcraft at all, right? So you're thinking like, okay, that's what we're dealing with here. We got an alternative medicine doctor over here, but then no, I mean, those little things like, oh, I have to have Kristin do that because it's more effective that way, or I have to swear Kristin to secrecy. That's those are troubling things, and I think just the last really kind of troubling thing that just springs to my mind is when she and Kristin, and this goes back to when they're gathering those herbs and Arnie's watching their horses, when they're having that conversation, and Kristin tells Frua Shield about the dwarf maiden, and she kind of makes this connection. And I had this thought before also, like, what if that woman years ago was Frua Shield? And Kristin said, realizes that there's some similarities between that woman and Frua Shield, but also there's some differences as well. So she kind of is like, it's not the same person. I don't know that that's true. It might be the same person, but for now we're saying it's not. But in that interchange, Frua Shield says something like, well, there's people who do this other route, right? Who take the gold and trap those people in a rock or whatever they do. And have you heard of that? And Kristin's like, yeah, but I don't think that's right. Like, I wouldn't dare do that. And I don't think it's the right thing to do. And Frua Shield's response is something to the effect of like, it's always good to not to don't dare do something that isn't right. Like if there's something you don't think is right, then to not do it, that's good. But to think something's not right because you dare not do it, that's not good, right? And while I do see the point that she's making there, right, with like, okay, like we jump to conclusions and make assumptions, and just because we think like, oh, I would never do that, so it must be bad and wrong. Like, yeah, I get how that can be short-sighted, and how we would be beneficial to have a little bit more of an open mind, and honestly, maybe that's what people have done to Frua Shield throughout her life, is just to label her as wrong or bad, and so because they've already made that assumption or that label, they're treating her that way. But there's still something about that interchange that just felt off, right? That it just was like, okay, it feels like you're kind of challenging her belief structure here a little bit.
Right. The only thing I'll add is there's always something about a mother, like it feels like, like I said earlier, Lavran's coming around. Even Father Eric is tolerating her to a point. The town is kind of, but it feels like Kristin's mom with Ragnfrid, she's got that mom radar going, the maternal mother bear.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm allowing this, but I'm not going to just be blinded, whole stock. And
I've opened my home to it. Like it was this is at her request.
Yeah.
So I think she probably feels a little bit trapped because this is all what she has wanted. But yes, yeah.
I can also see
like mama bear protectiveness.
Yeah.
Coming in here.
And I guess, and this is just me inferring here because it's not explicitly stated in the text in this chapter, but digging a little deeper in what we know of her, I could also see Ragnfrid just being super also jealous. Yes, it is that the protectiveness of your, and she even, this is the part she does to say, where you are our only child now. You are your father's pride, and you're it. And so, please, God, protect her. You've not been stung by all these issues. But I think there's even a deeper thing when in this chapter where it talked about how Uvild, the only time she felt good was when Farashida's coming to give her the potions and to take care of her.
Yeah,
And I could
thought that
see
was a little bit weird.
and I could see Ragnfried, like if she's witnessing all this, and for her as a mother to see her child suffering, and the only and here's this other woman that comes and is able to at least alleviate some of the pain and take care of her, and her as a mother can't help her. And like you said, has she let the wolf in the hen house kind of thing, and is she's starting to have second thoughts and regrets of it. So yeah, absolutely. Going back real quick, the ones that Satan choose in Dante's Inferno is Judas, Marcus Brutus, and then Gaius Cassius Longinus. So those were the three. So good old Gaius.
How could I forget old Gaius?
Yeah, right.
Cassius.
So the other thing, I'm trying to remember the other main point. I think we've covered a lot of the main points, except for the very end when guess who's coming to dinner? We've got 2 priests and a monk, and this other priest he's a character for sure. I mean, he was very interesting. We're talking about Sigurd, and he is, I love the description. He's basically a dwarf. He's very short, and he is very sure of himself, especially when it comes to the art of medicine and taking care of people. And so, coming to pay a visit here, he starts pestering poor Ulvild to the point where she's freaking out. She's screaming because he's like, "Come here, child. Come here. Let me ask you a bunch of questions, and let me wake you up and prod you and poke you and see if you can stand and everything else." And then, he gets a little. He partakes of the drink, and this is all part of the Satan talk earlier too, and I find it interesting.
Yeah, things kind of go, hilarity ensues, right?
Things go sideways.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah. So there's little pockets here just before I know you're giving kind of the synopsis of what happened here, but just in this interchange, there's these little moments and pockets that I thought were just really interesting and telling of the characters of the individuals, right? So first of all, Sira Sigurd is the priest from Sundbu.
Yes.
Okay, so he is Sundbu, of course, is the region where Trond, Ragnfried's brother, is from. And if you remember, she has some resentment against her brother she blames him for Ulfhild's accident, for her injury, and so now there's this drift between them, this rift, and they've not spoken in a while.
We find out that they haven't come back.
Oh, it's tense. It's not good. There's a wound there, absolutely, and so. Sira Sigurd, he's like, okay, I'm going to fix this, right? So he's coming in with a mission, right? And his mission is to invite this family from Jorngard to Sundbu so that these people can be together again. And now is that mission out of arrogance or out of piety? I don't know. We do know that he definitely has plenty of arrogance. And
no,
so you be the judge, but as he's coming forward, and already this house is like to the gills, right? You mentioned that that Gerd and Inga Finnsbrecken, the parents of Arnie, are there, but in addition to them, you've got Sira Erik and Frueshield and her husband, Bjorn, Gunnard, right? They're there. And also one of the friars from Hamar, not Brother Edvin, which I was really hopeful once I
I
saw Brother from
know.
Hamar, but Brother Ausgaut, or what is it? Asgout.
Yeah.
He's there. And then old Jan from Lapsgard. Old
Oh,
Jan.
yeah. Even my wife laughed at that. She's like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, from Lapsgard. So it's a full house. So he stumbles in thinking like he's going to save the day, but there's already lots of capable people here and like things are happening. So already it's a comedy of errors there as he's like, well, let me see if I can take a crack at her. So Oldfield's already asleep, but he wakes her up. And again, we're seeing just the pompous nature of this person. He doesn't care about Oldfield. He cares about himself. He cares about being the one to actually set things straight. And it does say something a little bit before here that the people of Sunbu and he himself were a little bit appalled or taken aback that they hadn't asked him for help. I'm like, okay, I think they've got things covered. I think there's a reason why they didn't ask you for help,
Did you ever watch Parks and Rec?
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's like Pawnee and what was the town next to Pawnee? Why am I blanking on that? Eagleton.
Yes, Eagleton.
Yeah. It's like Eagletonians like, don't you know who we are? Why didn't you come and ask for help, Pawneeans?
Yeah. And there's just like, okay, are you serious? Come on. So as he wakes up Oldfield, he tries to get her to stand. Not going to work. Doesn't work. He gets a little flustered, and here's one of the moments where Frua Shield steps up and kind of separates the two and lets her go back to bed, and she's like, you got to understand, and she kind of strokes his ego a little bit, right? She brings him to the head of the table. She talks about here, let me tell you everything that we've done to help her, and like making him feel really important. And so he soon moves past the fact that there was no success there with Oldfield, and like, okay, like you can tell Frua Shield is a little bit of a, like she's kind of a peacemaker, right? Like, all right, let's kind of shuffle you over here, separate you there, calm you down. Okay, great. But yeah, he starts hitting the drink, like you were saying, and that good-natured attitude that Frua Shield is able to coax out of him is very short-lived.
Do you think Father Eric was right in going after Father Sigurd?
I mean, it's hard to say that, resorting to just such violence is the right move when it's not to counteract violence that's already existing. It's hard to say, but I do think the intent behind it was just, right? Maybe the execution not the best, right? But though fun to read.
I think we're getting definitely the picture drawn very clearly of how Sir Eric operates. He's a man of little words. A lot of action.
Sure. And
doesn't matter your age. Doesn't matter your position.
I loved how when he started getting this bad attitude, Sira Sigurd, how he starts calling out Gerd, right? Gerd and Inga Finnsbrecken, right? Gerd works for the Bishop of Hamar, and there's this dispute between the bishopric and Trond, and so in this moment, Gerd is this avatar for the bishop that Sira Sigurd starts trashing, and the line here that it made me chuckle. Gerd didn't say much, but Inga, his wife, was a hot-tempered woman. And so you could just imagine that she was having none of it and just went right back at him, and then it says Brother Ausgaut joined in the discussion. Like, yeah, discussion,
Uh-huh.
So yeah, then that's where it just really starts to amp up. This is where the story of Satan comes in,
yeah.
where brother Ascot is like, hey, Sarah, like, you got to remember the story of St. Thomas of Canterbury here. And we all know that you're in it for your. I mean, he calls him out. Like,
Yeah.
we know you're in it for yourself.
Yeah.
So be careful.
And then, it's very interesting how in all of this commotion after the short brawl and for a shield, just kind of calms them down and they all again on both sides now and settles everyone down. How Ragenfrey quietly left, and I think the author did a great job of setting that up. How it was mentioned, right, with Sigurd telling through a shield of like, why are you sitting there? You're sitting in a place where Ragenfried should be sitting, and you put that
acting as if, yeah.
But I mean, that's such brilliant writing because you put that nugget in your head, like, okay, where's Ragenfried in this place, in this room? She's not where she should be, and then you get so swept up in this commotion that then once Kristin leaves you, then you notice, oh wait, Ragenfried left, so she's not a part of this. So, last question I have for you: do you remember what was the coldest place you've ever slept? Or you had
hands
to sleep?
Down, easy. Washington, D.C., March for Life. That one infamous year where we led a group and we made arrangements with a local parish there to stay on their grounds, and they put us up in a temporary building.
Oh, that's right.
That has no foundation. It's just it's air underneath it, right? Because it's a temporary building,
portable home.
It's
so portable building.
Just, like, you're sleeping underneath just this pocket of freezing air. We're on the ground in this building where the heater is either not working or just can't keep up.
I think it just couldn't keep up, at least in our area.
I mean, it was like single digit temperatures. The windshield was just super terrible, and we're inside this, shack for all practical purposes. And like that was really terrible. Like, there were other times where it was tough too. That was the worst.
Miserable.
And it was super miserable. And then what's funny is it got so bad that the parish felt bad for us, that they moved us into their parish hall. Like, oh, here, maybe this will be better. Well, like, one, why didn't you just put us there to begin with? First of all. Mm-hmm. Second of all, the parish hall, now we're in this big, huge room, again, heater, having a hard time keeping up. And we're straight on this, and then thankfully there wasn't a pocket of air underneath it, but just this hard, cold floor. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was
a lot of offering up.
It's a cold night. It's a cold night.
Hey, Gabe, if that's what helped overturn Roe v. Wade, I will gladly do it again.
Take me back there, Jason. But yeah, I definitely, like, when we were reading the conditions of the place where Ragenfried's staying, yeah, it's like, how do you not go back to those kinds of places and experiences, and again, like, this author is so good at painting the picture. Mm-hmm. Like, I was there, like, I cared what was going to happen. Honestly, I believed that as Ragenfried is trying to shoo Kristin away. So Kristin is going to her bed. It mentions beforehand that she was going to go sleep at Tortoise's house because of all the people in the house.
Right.
And as she's outside, it's when she has this interaction with her mom.
Right. And I was going to interrupt right there real quick, because exactly what you just said, of like, the author here does such a great job of putting you in there, and you feel, and you actually feel like you're in that setting right there. For me, it was exactly this part where Kristin is walking out, seeing the northern lights above, the crunching of the snow under her feet, all of that like, you totally feel immersed in this world. And I love that so much.
Yeah, no, totally. And then she sees this figure, just this woman in pain and agony, just, almost wailing around, and
Mm-hmm.
she realizes that's my mom, right? And as Ragnfried, I before we get into that, because I really thought something was going to happen there. Uh, as Ragnfried, I think we saw moments throughout this chapter of Ragnfried um, showing some tenderness or showing some motherliness, and showing little pockets of warmth towards Kristin,
Mm-hmm.
right? We talked about one already where she asks, like, as like the motherly protective, like, "Hey, are you learning anything bad from her? Are you okay?" And then, you know, like, "May God and Mary take care of you," right? And then, but there's even a moment like when Kristin, I mentioned, had gone out to collect the dew for Oldfield's drink, and Kristin's cold and freezing, and she's wanting to go back to bed to get warm, and Ragfried had been out there with Fruashield and with Kristin as well, but at some point Ragfried's not there anymore. You're like, where'd she go, right? Well, she makes this appearance with, "Hey, daughter, I warmed up this ale for you because I know you're cold." Like, again, like, just there's a little bit of just tenderness there,
Yeah.
right? That little pockets that maybe we hadn't quite seen in some of the previous chapters, except for like when things were good for 3 years with Oldfield. But we do see it. Just like there is some care, there is some compassion, some love. It was a little bit weird of like, "You're your father's favorite," and blah blah blah. Okay, what about you? How do you feel though,
Well,
Mom?
we already knew that.
No, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about how we feel because we're Norwegian. So I'll talk about how other people feel. I won't talk about how I feel, right?
Uh-huh.
But I did feel like there was another layer of Ragnfried that. So, we started off this episode today talking about how there wasn't like a lot of movement, but I think there was, but it wasn't lateral. I think there was some layers peeled. I think there was some depth, right? Like, I feel like we have a little bit more depth to the character of Ragnfried. We certainly have more depth to the character of Fruashield, right? And how she's handling some of these different things. We have, Kristin taking it all in, even with Sarah Eric, and like the progression of the relationship, right? In the last chapter, we have him like, "May God have mercy on your soul for bringing in Fruashield," to now, he's, maybe she's not his favorite, but there's a respect or a relationship
Mm-hmm.
that's built up there. And we didn't say it, but the reason Sarah Eric throws Sigurd across the room is because he was trash talking through a shield, right? And he like jumps to her defense, like, "That's enough!" Like, you darn priest, like, just nails him, So like we see this turnaround in all these different characters, and how like they're kind of like on a team together, and maybe they're coming from different angles or from different places, but they all want to help Ulfhild. They all want to help this family. And I don't know. I thought that was really rich. And I just wanted to make sure to mention that, because here we are at the end of this chapter, and we see the scene that she painted, right? That Kristen's going off to bed. She sees her mom, and her mom catches her and says, "I want you to stop. I don't want you to go there. I want you to go into bed with your dad and your sister," which is where Ragnfried normally sleeps,
Mm-hmm.
right? Go there, be warm there, go sleep with your sister, make sure your dad doesn't crush her, because when he's drinking, he rolls over, he's not aware of his surroundings. And it's like, "Well, what about you, Mom? Where are you going?" And I don't know what you were thinking in this moment. I'll just ask you, what were you thinking before she ultimately says what she's gonna do, and before what ultimately happens?
I mean, I assumed that she was gonna go over either to Tron's or to where she ended up. Like, when she said, "You go be with your sister and your dad," I knew she was gonna be doing something pretty drastic, especially given how wild she was behaving
Sure.
walking up. You knew she was in some sort of torment, and
She is in pain.
she didn't deserve anything nice right now. I guess my question is, so at the very end of this chapter, she's crying. She cries herself to sleep. I guess I didn't pick up, like, do we know what she was so distraught and crying about? Is it
I
still
mean,
this
I
whole
think there's
situation, or is it
well, so it's lots of different things, right? It's all the same thing also.
right?
It's the situation of Oldfield
Hmm.
and where they are now today because of it, right? So you've got she's invited through a shield into her home, who nobody wanted to come except for her,
Hmm.
right? And through a shield has won everybody over, right? All the people who didn't want her speak highly of her. I mean, even Lavrans is like, I don't know if she's really a witch. I think there's lots of people who just throw that around whenever a woman, knows more than she's supposed to know. Or like, what was the line? Something like, I don't know that she needed to have witchcraft to catch her husband, because she's
Right.
not a bad looking woman right now. So however
Right.
many years ago she would have been like, like Ragnfried's hearing this from her husband. Pain, right? Like there's that internalized, like he is favoring her, and there's maybe some jealousy there. Um, we already talked about the response that Ulfhild Frau Shield is able to get from Ulfhild that nobody else really is, for whatever weird reason. Yeah, there's some pain, some jealousy there, right? How people have turned around and welcomed her. I mean, even Sarah Sigurd is a jerk, but he's pointing it out, like you act like you're running the place here, and really she's kind of moved in
Yeah.
and taken that role. And so I think there is a crisis internally in Ragnfried
Yeah.
where my daughter is probably never going to walk again. My husband's not all the way back. And then my role as the matriarch of this house is being usurped, and it's my own doing, and I don't want to cast her out because she is doing some good, but at the same time, I'm starting to wonder, was this the right choice? And I could see her being completely overwhelmed by the situation. And my one child that I have that's healthy, like is she looking up more to through a shield than she is to me,
Well,
right?
and like you said earlier, she handed her over to her
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
under her. So, yeah, it's yeah. And I was gonna say my prediction is I could see as early as the next chapter that these two women go at it. That I could see Ragnfried saying, "Get out of my house," and just try to kick her
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah,
So, any
yeah.
last thoughts?
Well, so what I was going to say is that in this moment when Ragnfried was talking to Kristen, um, and she was sending her to her bed, right, to where Ragnfried's supposed to sleep, I was thinking, what are you going to do, Ragnfried? And I really thought she was going to kill herself. I thought
Really?
like she was in such despair and such
You're always going to the
pain.
worst case solution here,
No,
man.
I mean like she's out. It's like so freezing cold. She's outside by herself. She's like interrupting the plan. The plan is for Kristen to go to Tortoise's house, and no, I want you to go to where I'm going to be. Well, why? Well, because someone needs to be in that role. Well,
Okay.
why aren't you going to be in that role? Well, because I'm just not going to be in that role anymore.
Mm,
I could totally see, like she's just going to stay outside and freeze to death. Like I don't think she was going to like hang herself or something, but I could see her like just staying outside, and in the morning they find her cold, lifeless body. And honestly, even when she went into that loft where she was going to sleep, and to the objection of Kristen, when she went into that loft to go to sleep, it was talking about how cold she was. Now she was wailing and gnashing her teeth, right? I did expect like her to just like freeze to death. So when I did read that she finally was able to warm the bed up and then she was able to go to sleep, I was like, oh, whew, breathe a little bit easy, because this is a woman that is in pain and not thinking straight. And so I would not put that out of the realm of possibility.
yeah, I think I don't know. I didn't see. I think she's too religious. her deep conviction in her faith, I don't know if it would allow her to get
I mean,
there.
but Frua's shield has come in, and we heard her in the last chapter say that if God's not going to answer her prayer, she'll go to the devil. So. I mean, like desperate times. She's just not thinking straight. This is not a Ragnfried, normal, healthy Ragnfried. Never, of course not. We're not. I don't know that we're dealing with that right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, not bad for a chapter that didn't really do much.
Anything else?
No, that's all I got, man. I'm ready for the next one.
All right. Well, thank y'all so much for listening, and we hope y'all enjoyed this episode and enjoyed this chapter, enjoying this book. Feel free to leave a comment either on YouTube. We're posting the episodes up there, so it's a good way to just throw the comments there and get a discussion going. Or you can go to our website, readingyourwaytoheaven.fireside.fm, and make sure to share this podcast, all that good stuff. And until the next one, we'll talk to you later. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.